Here lies Virginia in the curve of the Blue Ridge. In this land, I, Thomas Jefferson, spent my boyhood and the greater part of my life. In Albemarle County, my father, Peter Jefferson, of strong mind and sound judgment, had long ago purchased these acres. I was born at Shadwell, now marked by a few bricks. But my father had also bequeathed me his eagerness after information. I was 17, and the world was young. Yes, both horse and I were going to Williamsburg. We were bold in the pursuit of knowledge. Williamsburg, the governor's palace, and the capital of the colony, flying the flag of King George. Williamsburg, in the year 1760, had 200 houses and 2,000 souls. Here is Bruton Parish Church. The Duke of Gloucester Street, bordered by wooden houses, was the most stately thoroughfare in North America. It made a handsome appearance, and the town was free from mosquitoes. For 2 years, I studied at William and Mary College. At college, I got the universal acquaintance of those things serviceable to me. Where now was my mathematics professor, Dr. William Small? Where now were my fellow students, John Page of Roswell, Dabney Carr, John Walker from Mount Pleasant, Louis Burrows, Thomas Nelson, Edward Bland, gone from these halls. The palace was spacious and commodious within. To me, its tall cupola reared to a dizzy height. Here was the might of the king's authority. But Governor Fauquier, appointed by the king, was a popular figure. It was my good fortune to be admitted to his society and to accompany him on walks through the palace gardens. I also admired his flowers. In one rare moment, I was admitted to his confidence. He wished to try the texture of my mind, I, a raw young colt. I ventured a halting opinion, and he replied in rational good humor, I little dreamed I would one day occupy this palace as governor myself. I remember well the Raleigh Tavern. It was then a place of much gaiety. People gathered from all tidewater. Here, I once danced with Rebecca Burrow. I was prepared to say a good deal to her, to propose to her. But in addressing her fair person, I was seized with a strange confusion. My Rebecca, my fair Belinda. I was tongue-tied. I prefer not to dwell on that confab. I saw her little after that. But Williamsburg then was a world of wonder to me. I had spent my boyhood in the depths of the country. I watched their skills eagerly. Here were the arts of peace. Here were the latest fashions. This beguiled my purse. All young men should wear a wig of the latest fashion, a bag, the latest style. But other thoughts concerned me. These shoes of mine were fashioned by my friend, the shoemaker. And here was the jail, with Peter Pelham, the jailer, affable in his office. Here lived George Wythe, my beloved teacher and foster father. On Sabbath days, I attended Bruton Parish Church, but on weekdays, as I sauntered past, I greeted the organist, the same Peter Pelham. He allowed me to practice within on the church organ. Yes, music was my favorite passion. I practiced 2 hours a day on my violin. ground of liberty is to be gained by inches. We must secure what we have and eternally press forward. The Capitol of the colony of Virginia was the most pleasing piece of architecture. It was a light, airy structure. I chanced one day to enter the House of Burgesses. Gone now are the delegates, but their words remain. Against the authority of the king spoke a fiery young lawyer I'd met before, Patrick Henry. Let that king beware. If this be treason, make the most of it. Caesar had his Brutus, Charles I his Cromwell, and as for George III, if this be treason, if this be treason. All eyes were then opening to the rights of men. This thought drove me home to answer the questions in my mind. I was back in my native Albemarle. Here I would prize solitude and learn to read the secrets of man and nature. Bold in the pursuit of knowledge, I would divide my day into 5 parts. From dawn until 8, I read physical studies, chemistry, botany, zoology. 8 until 12, I studied law, cases on property, on rights of the individual. What were these rights? With the sun overhead, 12 to 1, I read politics. What are your politics, you amiable animals? To what party do you belong? Are you restive under your rights to pasture? To greener grass? Do you choose who milks you? Are you content merely to graze? Answer me. During the whole of the afternoon, I read history. John Smith was the founder of our colony. And from dark until bedtime, I pursued rhetoric and oratory. I was bold in the pursuit of knowledge with whatever result. I had always eyed a mountain of particular symmetry called Monticello. None ought to dwell in the valleys, but in the elevated and agreeable places. From the height of Monticello, I could look down into nature's workshop and see clouds fabricated at my feet. From this lofty height, I could contemplate the universe. I first built this small pavilion. In 1772, here I brought my bride, Martha Wales Skelton. From here, we watched our Monticello grow, a rectangular building with 4 corner rooms. It required 420,000 bricks. It took 30 years to build in its entirety, but I was content. No occupation so delightful as the cultivation of the earth. The greatest service a man can render his country is the introduction of a new, useful, or ornamental plant. From this cherished spot, my journeys went forth to Williamsburg again. Now, no longer a student, but a man of property, a practicing lawyer and delegate of my Albemarle County, I was proceeding on a matter of utmost importance. The times were troubled. We were restive under king and governor and their repressive taxes. Here, at Raleigh Tavern, where I once danced with Rebecca Burwell, we met. We men of Virginia formed a committee of correspondence to communicate with the other 12 colonies, to band together as colonies. Here was sown the mighty seed of the Federal Union, later to become the United States. I was writing much in those days in our cause, the summary views on British rights in America, and the proposed statute for religious freedom in Virginia. We met again in Richmond, in St. John's Church. Here, Patrick Henry ignited us to action. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. In 1776, in Philadelphia, I submitted the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I signed with the others. Ben Franklin reminded us we should hang together, or we should all hang separately. Then war came, and times that tried men's souls. In 1779, after Patrick Henry, I was elected second governor of our American state of Virginia. No royal pomp ceremony now. I would be content with the simple way of life still, and no retinue of retainers in my new office. But certain necessities had to be furnished. The palace had to be heated against the cold. It was a time of war, but the gardens were still there. The carp still swam in the fish ponds, and the well-trained arbors still grew. Gone now was the royal governor, gone forever. To preserve our independence, that we must do. We were fighting the best troops in the world, but here our opportunity came, Yorktown. All might of the king was now at bay at Yorktown. Our enemy, Cornwallis, entrenched, a frowning ring of defenses. Down from the north came our commander. General Washington was quick to seize this advantage. Our allies, the French, brought up their cannon, and American cannon came also. Cornwallis was taken. Cornwallis was taken. We were a free country. In the years after the Revolution, I represented our new nation in France. At Nîmes, I gazed for hours at the Maison Carrée. I sent back a model. This became our state capital. This stands now high on a hill in Richmond. James Madison succeeded me as president. His wife, Dolly Madison, became a gracious first lady of our young republic. To his estate in Orange County, Madison retired in the year 1817. I was frequent visitor to my neighbor. And Madison and I strolled together through the spacious gardens. 2 miles from Monticello, this tall Norway pine now guards Ashlaw, the home of the 5th president, James Monroe. My neighbor Monroe was governor of Virginia, signer of the Louisiana Purchase, minister to England, France, and Spain, secretary of state and war, and author of the Monroe Doctrine. Desiring his near company, I designed this modest home for Monroe, which he called his cabin castle. America, though a child of yesterday, has hopeful proofs of genius. Monroe is one. His wisdom extends throughout our hemisphere. "70 miles away in Rockbridge County, I'd long admired the natural bridge as the most sublime of nature's works. It seems a stone mountain, cloven by a great convulsion. It is bored through by Cedar Creek. So beautiful an art, so light, so springing up to heaven. When a young surveyor, there George Washington carved his indelible initials, G.W. In 1774, I purchased Natural Bridge. In the autumn of my life, my heart and feet returned me to my cherished Monticello. To walk through the halls and look out over my fields was my constant delight. The earth should belong to the living. From this elevation, I looked off toward Charlottesville. It had long been my thought and wish to establish a college I drew these plans for the University of Virginia, students to dwell in close association with their professors. I designed the library also in the style of Palladio. This became the Rotunda. This beautiful and hopeful institution was to be based on the illimitable freedom of the human mind to explore and expose every subject susceptible to contemplation. These walls I curved for grace and for strength. Three miles away was Monticello. My neighbors and my many friends dined with me. Our talk concerned the welfare of our republic, now taking a firm place among the world's nations. Although I was an old man, I was still a young gardener. I now enjoyed the repose to which I'd long been a stranger. My mornings were devoted to correspondence and to my will and testament. A plain cube of 3 feet without moldings, surmounted by an obelisk 6 feet in height, each a single stone. By these testimonials that I have lived, I wished most to be remembered. Here was buried Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of American Independence, the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and father of the University of Virginia. America. There is no country on earth where there is greater tranquility, where laws are milder or better obeyed, where everyone is to his own business or meddles less with that of others. Now is our country what a free and good government has made it, with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.